Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Kimberly and I teach the Divorcing Parent Education class. So if you are going through a divorce and that's how you got here, then welcome. Today we are going to be talking about 5 of the most common grounds that people use when they are filing a divorce complaint. But be sure to stick around till the end of the video because I'm going to talk about all the rest of the grounds, but just pretty quickly. So stay tuned. Before we get started, I wanted you to know that there are actually 15 legal grounds for divorce in Tennessee. Tennessee has 2 types of grounds for divorce. One is called fault divorce, and the other one is called no fault divorce. Let's talk about the first ground. The easiest and cheapest way to file for divorce is on a no-fault ground. There's only one no-fault ground, and it is called irreconcilable differences. To file for divorce on only the ground of irreconcilable differences, both parties must agree that irreconcilable differences have developed. If one of the spouses decides later that they would like to contest the divorce and you've only filed on the grounds of irreconcilable differences, the court will not be able to grant a divorce and you will have to amend your complaint to add a contested ground. So that's just a caution. If you think that you or your spouse may end up contesting the divorce, then you can go ahead and file on multiple grounds for divorce, one of which is irreconcilable differences. You can add another contested ground to your complaint, and then you're covered in case one of you decides later that they want to contest it. Let's talk about the second ground. The next ground is inappropriate marital conduct. Sometimes in the statute that can also be referred to as cruel and inhuman treatment. This covers a wide range of topics. Often clients come into my office and they're upset because they see inappropriate marital conduct as a ground for divorce. And when they are served the papers, they think that that means adultery. And it does not specifically mean adultery because adultery is a separate ground for divorce. Examples of things that may include inappropriate marital conduct are things like profane language, long-term abuse, degrading treatment, or it could simply be a catch-all phrase for a contested ground that needs to be added as that backup in case someone decides to contest the divorce and you don't want to just file on a no-fault ground of irreconcilable differences. It is very common to see a divorce filed on the grounds of irreconcilable differences and inappropriate marital conduct. Let's talk about a third really common ground. Let's talk about adultery. Adultery is voluntary sexual intercourse with someone other than your spouse. If you have a sexual relationship with someone other than your spouse while your divorce is still pending, that is still considered adultery, and someone could amend their divorce complaint and add adultery as a ground. So you need to be very careful if you think you can start dating while you're waiting for your divorce to go through. The final thing that you need to know about the adultery ground is that you must be able to prove it. So you need some sort of text messages, photographs, hire a private investigator, something like that. Adultery can be difficult to prove at times because it is not simply a suspicion or someone telling you that in the heat of the moment because they're mad and trying to hurt your feelings. A fourth really common ground that people use when filing for divorce is conviction of a felony. The spouse must be convicted of a felony and sentenced to prison. The other thing you need to know is that the crime does not have to have been committed in the state of Tennessee. Confinement in any state is considered a valid reason to file on the ground of conviction of a felony. Let's talk about the fifth and final most common ground people use when filing for divorce. This ground is called indignities. An indignity is when someone inflicts physical pain on you, or they even attempt to inflict physical pain on you. If you are a victim of domestic violence, I would encourage you to immediately get help, get out of that relationship, call 911, file for an order of protection. We have a blog post along with 5 tips for testifying in a domestic violence case that I will link in the description below, and I will put it up top here. So if you want to review that before you go down and testify in a domestic violence case, I would encourage you to watch that video. That leaves 10 grounds for divorce. So let's talk about them really quickly. Those grounds are desertion for 1 year. So if someone deserts you maliciously and intentionally without a reasonable cause, you can file for that ground. Abandonment occurs when one spouse kicks the other spouse out of the home and refuses to provide support for them. Another ground is pregnancy. The wife must be pregnant by another man at the time of the marriage, and the husband cannot have known that she was pregnant by someone else. Another ground is habitual drunkenness or abuse of narcotic drugs. The spouse who is seeking divorce cannot have known about the drug or alcohol problem before the marriage. Frequent drunkenness is not enough. You must be able to prove habitual intoxication. All right, let's talk about some other grounds. One of those is bigamy. You are not allowed to have more than one spouse in Tennessee. So if someone is already married or tries to legally marry a second husband or wife, the second marriage is void and you can file on the ground of bigamy. Another ground is impotence or the inability to procreate. The impotency must have existed prior to the marriage and has to be something that cannot be fixed or cured. The inability to procreate alone is not a sufficient ground for divorce. The spouse must also be unable to have sexual intercourse. Another ground is attempt to kill your spouse. That attempt must be deliberate and malicious. Some examples of that might be trying to run your spouse over with a car, poisoning them, trying to shoot them, or stabbing them with a knife. And finally, for this slide, conviction of an infamous crime. Infamous crimes are designated in the Tennessee statutory law. Some of those, which are a little bit outdated and ridiculous, might be breaking into an outhouse or horse stealing. Other things could include destroying a will, raping someone, forgery, incest, and other crimes that are infamous. The final 2 grounds for divorce are refusal to move, otherwise known as failure to follow to Tennessee. If you are living in Tennessee and your spouse intentionally refuses to move here for 2 years without a valid reason, then you can file under the ground of failure to follow to Tennessee. And a final ground is 2 years separation with no minor children. Now that you know the 5 most common reasons that people file for divorce and the other 10 grounds that you could add, please consult with a fantastic attorney in your area that can advise you what the most appropriate ground or grounds are for your divorce. Finally, I wanted to remind you that just because someone has filed for divorce against you, it doesn't mean that you are prevented from filing a counterclaim or a countercomplaint for divorce alleging grounds that they have done that have contributed to the failure of your marriage. Thank you for sticking around for all of those grounds for divorce in Tennessee, including the 5 most common grounds. If you liked this video, please click the thumbs up and don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that notification bell so that you will know when we make more videos like these.